Hi everyone, my name is Katie Razzano. I teach first grade at Stadium Drive Elementary, and I'm here today to share some of my top tips for writing workshop. These are some tips that I've learned that has made writing workshop successful for me. Some of these tips are tips that I've learned from collaborating with coworkers, and some of these are from a teacher's college training I received in the summer of 2021. So I hope you find these as helpful as I do when getting your writing workshop started throughout the year. Tip number one is through the immersion phase through shared writing and shared reading. One thing that I've learned from teaching first grade is that students have a really hard time transitioning to a new writing genre. So this gives students time to understand what type of writing they should be writing within this new unit. My immersion phase is normally about 3 to 5 days. Definitely depends on your group of kids or what new writing genre you are doing, and it also depends on what time of the year it is. For the beginning of the school year, I normally give it about 5 days of immersion versus more towards the end of the year, it might be 2 to 3 days of immersion story writing. I do immersion through reading mentor texts, kind of studying them. What are you noticing? Through shared writing, we write stories together. We brainstorm, what are some ideas or topics that you can write on. We do oral storytelling, and I really want to make sure that it's hands-on so students can understand the kind of writing that they should be doing throughout the unit. On this slide, here's kind of my example for the beginning of the year. In first grade, we do our how-to unit in the fall, late fall, about October. So normally for day one, when I'm introducing a how-to, it normally is a read aloud. So we might make a list of the things we notice. These are lists that I might have pre-thought out. I will look ahead throughout the unit and see, okay, what are things that a first grade writer should have within this unit. Day two, it's always the kids' favorite for our how-to unit. We normally do an interactive, hands-on experience. In first grade in my class, we make slime, so the students get to see the different steps that they should do to be successful. On day three, the next day, we will write a book together on this shared experience, learning transition words, writing down exactly what we did from start to finish. That normally takes 2 days. So day three and day four, they are writing it with me or we are recalling it so that way they can really see how to make a new story with how to, because it is different from our first unit in writing. And the last day, we normally brainstorm, such as what are some things that you are an expert on? What are some things if you needed to teach someone else exactly how to do, what can you do? So you can see that these days kind of play off one another to make sure that they really understand what is a how-to writing. Here is the example of our shared writing experience for the how-to unit. As you can see, about a sentence on each page. Again, this is the beginning of first grade. You can modify it for your grade level, but this is about where we were in first grade. For this shared writing experience, I focused a lot on the pictures, more of like making diagrams, because that was a big part of our how-to writing. We also, you can see, we planned out it orally first. I drew a line for each word, so that way it can help organize the students' words, creating a complete sentence. And we also focused a little bit on our transition words because I knew that was a big part of how-to writing. So this, again, just really helps them understand how to plan a story within a new writing unit. Within immersion, this is more of like my example schedule for the end of the year. So if you're more of a second grade teacher, this might be your beginning of the year schedule. We start with we end with realistic fiction. So you can see day one, just like how we did with how to, we start with a read aloud. We make a list of the things that we notice. Just like before, I kind of peek through the unit and see, okay, what are the big ideas? What are the big things that we want to make sure that the kids make or have in their writing? So they can automatically from day one see the things that they should have in their story. Day two, it's an interactive write, so I really have the kids kind of create their own realistic fiction. We talk about how realistic fiction, it's a made-up story, but it's something that can actually happen. So I have the kids create a class character, a class problem, a class solution, and on the day two, we create the first 2 pages together. Then on day three, I made a copy of the first 2 pages, and then the students get to finish their ending. What's an ending that can be realistic and that can follow the story? So then that way they're making it more of their own. Day 4, we build up their character and their setting so that they can really have that character development in their realistic fiction story. And on day 5, you can see that they are independent writing, so they're starting their very first realistic fiction story. So from beginning of the year to the end of the year, our interactive writing or immersion phase is different. And again, it will be different for your group of kids. And we really just want to make sure that they are understanding their new type of genre. Here is that example of that shared writing that we do for realistic fiction. So you can see the first 2 pages we did together as a class, more practicing that spelling of what we learned in phonics. So again, the kids got to pick out a class character, a class problem, and then on the 3rd page, you can see that the kids created their own ending. So they got the copy of the first 2 pages, and then they had to think of a time or of a solution. How would they want to solve this realistic fiction problem? So this is a really fun way for kids to understand what kind of writing we're going to be writing over the unit. Tip number 2 that I have found really successful is my students' writing folders. This was actually a suggestion from a coworker within the building. These writing folders are amazing. They have multiple pockets, which I keep all the different phonics charts. We update them throughout the year, and they just really help them reinforce to use their tools and check their spelling. On the following pages, you'll kind of see the different charts I use. Again, depending on your grade level, you might have different charts. This is something that I coordinate with the school secretary to order at the end of each year when they're putting in their Nikki order. So here, as you can see, this is multiple clear pockets. On one side, I have the vowel chart, I have a blends and digraphs chart, their word wall that we change throughout the year, and then we even have the vowel team chart that they created. So again, totally customizable, but room for all of the students' charts that they would need to be successful when spelling and writing. Tip number 3 is conferring. What I do for conferring is I have made my own conferring sheet. As you can see in the picture above that I have looked at the report card standards. So I could see what are the big standards that students should be mastering in 1st grade. How can I track them throughout their independent writing time? So I kind of compiled that through the report card, and then you can see I'm tracking it over the 3 conferences in a row. This allows me to see what is the student doing consistently well, what does this student need to work on, and this also helps me form small groups. I like to collect a sample of writing from all my students each bend. That is about 5 to 6 lessons, so that way I can really dive in and see more in depth, okay, what do they need to work on, what are they doing great, and this allows me to understand their writing and also what I can do to help support them. I also do table conferring, and this helps me check in with more kids more consistently. So when I do table conferring, it's a quick, fast conference, more of a coaching conference or a compliment depending on what I'm seeing in their writing, but it's also a time for me to check in of that small group skill that I did teach them to see, okay, are they doing it before I collect their next piece of writing. So again, this is the conferring sheet that works best for me, and I just looked off the report card standards to make this sheet. My next tip is the leave behind notes. This is something that the kids love to do and that makes them feel really successful in their writing workshop time. This can be teacher created or student created. Oftentimes when I'm creating them, I sit down and I look through, and then together we think of maybe a quick picture I can draw and a quick word, so then that way they can keep that in their writing folder and go back to it, making sure that they're meeting their goal. However, the kids feel most successful and take ownership when they are the ones creating their goals. So you can see that this student above created 2 of theirs, and they feel more successful when they can pick the goal, and then they can see themselves over time making sure that they are adding those things within their stories. And also, this is great for a quick mid-chapter mid-workshop stop, having students either check their goals or handing out sticky notes thinking about one thing that they might need. Or this is also a great share. Partnerships can also hold each other accountable, sharing your goal. Okay, where did you add it? So this is another way to hold kids accountable, but also to make them feel successful. Tip number 5, and probably my favorite tip that has made me feel more organized within writing workshop, is these unit folders. When I attended the Teachers College writing training, this was one of the things that they suggested, and it's amazing. So I have one of these folders for each unit, and within these folders, I organize like my examples, my charts, my brainstorming sheets, my immersion things, anything that I've used that has been helpful. I have one for each unit, so when I'm teaching that unit, I'll pull out that folder and see either what I did last year. It also saves time on creating new charts or small group material. So this was very helpful just to keep organized. You can find them on Amazon. I put it down there. I search multiple pocket folder. And then I have pictures on the next slide just for you to see kind of how I organized it. Again, highly recommend. I have one for each unit, and it helps me stay organized while I'm teaching. So as you can see, this is just pictures of how I store. This is for my how-to. So again, multiple pockets. So I have a pocket dedicated to different things: mentor texts, class examples, charts, extra copies, immersion. So this is one way to organize all of my writing materials for the unit. My last tip for you is using a red revision pen. This is something, again, I just started a few years ago, and this is another step within the writing process that kids don't like to do or don't normally do. So I had the idea of, hey, why don't we get a different colored pen, and we'll call them like a special revision pen that kids will get to use on those days that we get to fix our mistakes or add to our story. So we did that, and my kids love their revision days because they get to use a new red fancy pen. And again, this is part of the writing process, and this is a part of the writing process that not a lot of kids like to do, or I've noticed over the years where they just feel like everything's right, so they don't have to do it. But by introducing a red pen, the kids get excited to fix their mistakes or to add on. It allows them to see either how much they missed or how much they're going to add. And it also allows me to track their mistakes and to see, okay, are we using our resources, or what are some things that we need to keep working on individually. So again, this was another big thing that has helped my writing workshop be successful. And with that, we've come to the end of our presentation. So thank you all for listening, and I hope that you were able to find some tips and maybe try some of these, because they have made my writing workshop more successful. So again, thank you, and I hope you found something valuable in this presentation.